morning, Flavored Vivid collective in general. My name is Francesca with Flavored Vivid here, and we are going to do a Chiron direct video for all signs, which I'm excited about. I kind of like this format. So let me know if you guys like it or not, and we can go from there. I have some exciting things planned for the upcoming months too, for some videos for you all. But basically, a lot of people don't even know what Chiron is, so let's dive into some of the basics really quick, and then we'll go into what this means for every individual sign. So Chiron has been retrograde since July 26th, and it is going to continue to be retrograde up until December 29th, where it will finally turn direct. Chiron is a very long-standing asteroid that impacts us. It has been in the sign of Aries all the way from April 17th of 2018, and it's going to continue until April 14th of 2027, not including some of the retrograde periods. That's all well and dandy, but like, what is the energy? What does that mean? Our Chiron is the place in our chart that shows our deepest core foundational wounds. A lot of the things that we have carried with us through childhood and forward into our adult lives that may still subconsciously be impacting us and creating a little bit of tension or conflict, or areas of our lives where we may just be justifying or not being vulnerable and open because of preconceived beliefs around what people do, say, how they act, and how that is all personally manifested within ourselves and within our wounded state, basically. So the purpose of Chiron, though, is not to inflict these wounds. Chiron is known as the wounded healer, but the flip side of that is that Chiron was also a healer in itself, right? Chiron was wounded, but he was one who healed others. And Chiron is an indication in our chart that shows us, okay, these are things that I can work on to heal, to integrate, to basically to orchestrate a soul retrieval for yourself and bring back these fragmented parts of ourselves that may have been left along the way, ones that we've catalyzed throughout our life and kind of segmented because it was too painful when we were going through those experiences and didn't have the opportunity to integrate them then. Now, with a better perspective, a fresh perspective, and maybe more experience and wisdom and age even, you can look back on those wounds and integrate them back into heal for yourself so that you can move forward as a more wholly, well-rounded individual instead of operating from these wounding patterns that no longer serve you, basically. Hopefully that all makes sense. A lot of people can get really scared when they see Chiron because it's like, oh, it's my shadow side, it's this and that. But yes, it reveals the shadow. Chiron reveals your shadow. It reveals where you're hidden, where your Achilles heel is, so to speak. But it's only revealing that so that you can be aware of it and integrate it. There's no way to heal something that you don't know is an issue, right? That's why doctors diagnose, do prognoses and things. They investigate before they actually diagnose so that they know what steps are needed for them to take so that they can actually provide the healing that is necessary for you. It's the same thing with Chiron here. All right, so now for those of you that don't know what Chiron is, that's just a little example of it. As a general rule, I'm going to go over just how this impacts the collective here. So Chiron in Aries does create a challenging aspect to Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, two squares in an opposition there. And planets between the 19th and 23rd degree are highlighted. So if you look at your personal birth chart and you see any of your own personal planets that are between the 19th or 23rd degree, while this Chiron retrograde has kind of gone through and moved through these degrees, these planets might be highlighted for you personally. So that's something that you can look at and kind of track Chiron and see as it's moving through these things, what energies might be coming up for you. All planets in the sign of Aries are definitely going to be activated with Chiron in Aries, of course. And also, just as a side note, my Chiron is in Aries. Thanks for that. So you are actually, that's so amazing that you like comments on that too, because what my next thing that I was going to touch on very quickly is that usually around the age of 50 or so, you go through what is called a Chiron return, very similar to a Saturn return. It happens for most all of us around the age of 50, 47 to 50, and it's like a coming of age and integration for those that are going through that. If you want specifics on what your Chiron return may look like for you, I can always pull up your chart and we can do a reading on that and see, you know, what this may have manifested for you. And for a lot of people that have done the inner work for a Chiron return, it means, you know, a sense of peace and, you know, coming home almost, where people that may have pushed that to the side, they may have a little bit harder time dealing with these energies here. All right, so let's go straight into the signs here and how each sign is going to kind of be impacted. And of course, we have to start off with the first house, our beautiful Aries. This is going to be applicable to Aries Sun and Aries Rising. And Chiron will be transiting your first house here. Very self-explanatory. This is going to be a period of integrating the lessons you've experienced during this retrograde cycle. And like I said, the Chiron retrograde is about 5 months. And if you think of a retrograde, it kind of goes in like a backward S motion, because there's a point basically where it enters the particular degree of the start of the retrograde and then it loops back around. So it has this little zigzag motion. So as we're going direct, it's actually going to be starting at the 19th degree, but we don't exit it until February of 2026 when Chiron finally hits the 23rd degree. Just as a little bit of clarification for those of you that are into the degree theory. But yes, back to Aries, Sun, and Rising here. This is a great experience for you to integrate lessons that may have come up during this retrograde. It brings forth an opportunity to completely transform into a higher vibration of yourself, because it is in the first house. The first house is the house of self. It can also sometimes impact your personal body, health. We are doing high for sales. The only sale that we are doing is going to be a 20% off on transit and tarot readings that we have going up. That's 6 months in advance, and we have both Carissa and I that will be orchestrating those readings, just to answer that question really quick. Otherwise, we don't have any discounts on services other than the 20% off that we have there. And I believe the code is New Year. Correct me if I'm wrong, babe, but drop it in the comments if you're around, if you're not busy. All right, so back to this though. For Aries here too, you have an opportunity to reconstruct your goals. You might have kind of felt like you were spinning your wheels during this retrograde, or what was important to you maybe kind of wasn't as important as you thought it was. Like there may have been revelations around that. It's important for you to identify what is your personal hierarchy here, because Aries does kind of have a similarity with Capricorn, where there is kind of a hierarchical sense there. That's why Capricorn and Aries planetarily actually get along really well. So it's important for you to identify and know what is important to you. Where do you need to put your energy so that you can be most successful on the things that are most important to you? And over this last 5 months, while Chiron was retrograde, which gives us this chance to reflect on a lot of the programs and triggers and what people have instilled on us and pushed on us to believe as true or right, we have the opportunity to, reassess what really is true to us. So there was a lot of this personally for Aries Suns and Rising, while we have, of course, Chiron and Aries in general, and also during this retrograde as we were more reflective, and now we're going into this direct energy. So it also could have been too, maybe you were setting a little bit too firm boundaries with people, or you felt very sensitive, more so than you normally would. So it's like you needed to barricade and set yourself up with a lot of walls and pillars to hold other people out, and kind of similarly to the Mars retrograde. And now as you go direct, it's like you can trust yourself a little bit more and have that discernment of what people are really looking out for you that have your benefit in mind, and which ones, may be kind of hidden enemies, that sort of thing. Yes, and then we already touched on this stuff before too, but just anywhere that you have Aries placements in your chart, typically if you have an Aries sun, you're more than likely to have at least one other Aries planet in your chart. So just reflect on that too and see maybe where that could be impacting you doubly. All right, going into Taurus suns and Taurus rising, this is going to be impacting your 12th house. And what a spiritual year for y'all. You have a lot of 12th house influence this year because we have a lot of Aries in the sky. And I think that's really beautiful for y'all. I hope that this is, you kind of go through this dark night of the soul as a stronger and more well-rounded individual here. This is an opportunity to retract yourself from materialism and embrace a more spiritual approach to life as opposed to a material approach. A lot of the times Taurus can lean into the material safety because they don't have any other physical sense of safety, or they forget to kind of look inside themselves and find that sense of safety internally. And it's okay to want nice things and like nice things and all of that, but there's a difference between being like, oh, I really want this purse, or I want to get a new car or something, and placing your identity on a hierarchy based on the physical items that you obtain throughout your life. So there's, like I said, finding your sense of safety from things that are immaterial, like looking at the higher perspective, connecting to source consciousness, collective consciousness, and seeing the bigger picture of things instead of seeing things through for some reason I was going to say a stethoscope, but that's hearing. So I don't know, maybe you're a doctor, but seeing through a telescope or something like that, horse blinders, I always say too. Finding safety within yourself is going to be what is challenged here. So your sense of safety may have been challenged during this retrograde, and it can be easy to fall into those old habits and patterns, especially during a retrograde. But now with Chiron direct, it's like, okay, maybe I did fall into those patterns and I did, go back into what was safe for me, but I'm ready to kind of step out of that. And I recognize that this isn't for me any longer. Or maybe you fell into those patterns and they didn't give you the sense of safety that you thought it was going to give you, or that it gave you in the past. So it's like, okay, well, I recognize that I'm not the same person that I thought I was before. So now the only option for me to do is to move forward. And sometimes for Taurus, because you're fixed signs, it's like backed into a corner, and you need that push in order to get forward throughout things in your life. You could have also dealt with someone in prison, or you may have dealt with some sense of imprisonment or lack of freedom here, which is where the materialism can also come into also. But your dreams and intuition may help ease any of your personal discomfort, or you may have a lot of guidance from your spirit guides, team, ancestors, whatever you personally believe in, God, if you have divination through your dreams in that sense as well. Subconscious patterns could come to the forefront for integration too. So especially during the retrograde for these last 5 months, maybe there was a lot of subconscious reprogramming that you've been working on and integrating in order to change and evolve for yourself, okay? So that is Taurus, how the Chiron direct and retrograde has and will impact you. And as we jump in here, we have the Gemini Sun and Rising Collective, which is going to be hitting the 11th house here. And you may have had lessons around people pleasing and following the established norm here. And this is going to be mostly during the retrograde, and we're coming to that full integration here and implementing the lessons that we learned during that retrograde, again, just to reestablish that. So there's a potential to create hope and growth within a community or group after you integrate some of these lessons. That could be work, a party, a friend group, hiking group, or any established collective of people here. You have the opportunity to attract the people you really align to once you're being your authentic self. And sometimes that can be the fear too. It's like you wanting to be accepted from the people that you value, or the people that you see maybe even higher up than you, or the people that you look up to. But there's no point in pretending to be something you're not for someone else's validation, when it's like, it's not even really you they're validating. It's not you that they're really seeing, which can feel lonely in itself. So it's kind of like stripping off this black sheep energy and, owning who you are, even if it might be quirky or weird, or, a little bit out there, because, Gemini being mercurial ruled can be a little bit quirky. So, and I say that with love in my heart. I have Virgo rising, so I am mercurially ruled as well, as you can tell, because I'm so affluent in my speech. And also the way that you bond with people might be changing during this time. Like you might not really align so much with the superficialities that got you by before. Like you're wanting people to finally see you for who you really are. As we're going to the end of this Chiron in Aries. I mean, some people also, you got to keep in mind, we have had Chiron in Aries all the way from 2017. So some people might have learned these lessons a little bit earlier. Some people might be on the other back end of it. Just take what resonates with you. It doesn't, always have to be cut and dry. But yeah, everyone's journey is beautiful and blessed, and it might not all look the same. Okay, so let's jump into Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising, which Chiron will be impacting your 10th house, which is the opposite house of you natally. Cancer rules over the 4th house, Capricorn rules over the 10th. So you're in your opposite house here. Your children could have played a huge role in revealing your shadow and toxic habits during this retrograde, and just in general while Chiron has been in Aries. Or perhaps you are the child that has triggered the wounding pattern in your parents or other people in your family. Maybe you've had some tension there with your family. And tension doesn't have to be a bad thing. It really is just dependent on how you handle those energies, how you move forward through them. Triggers aren't a bad thing. They just show you what needs more attention to be worked on. But the problem comes when a lot of people deflect and justify and mask instead of addressing whatever the trigger is. Okay. Your sense of legacy is highlighted here. Maybe that is a coworker you've trained up to replace or a colleague you've invested in. With it being in the 10th house too, it's like your public life, your social life, your sense of legacy and career path. It's the lightest part of your chart with the exception of the ascendant. Okay. You could feel like you've never received the accolades from your work or for your commitments here too. And that mostly is happening, like the conflict of this is mostly happening during the retrograde here. But it's like all these things are kind of coming to the forefront for you, Cancer, so that you stop trying to receive your validation and accolades from people outside of yourself. You don't need other people to be like, golly gee, you're such a hard worker and you do so much for the company and this and this. Like, yes, that's a very nice thing to have, but don't make it so nice that your own personal worth is like stipulated by that you can't have a strong sense of self unless other people are validating you. And if you're in a situation where people aren't validating you and they aren't giving you the respect that you feel like you've deserved and earned, then go where you are wanted and you are celebrated. You don't have, it's not always just like, oh yeah, I don't care what other people think, or like it's not always just like forget the disrespect that other people give to you. Sometimes it's okay, this is a consequence of that disrespect and it's removing yourself from the situation. And another thing here is you could have taken blows to your public image, or things you've wanted to kept hidden may have come to the surface here as well, because the 4th house is the darkest part of the chart. Cancer is very secretive, very hidden, very private. And so with it being hitting your 10th house, it can be some things coming to light that maybe were hidden before. The way to move through this energy is the very Capricornian way, which is perseverance, resilience, and discipline on your way through it. And if it's necessary to set boundaries or remove yourself from certain situations, find a new job, a new career path, maybe, it's been a coming to the head that your career isn't what you thought it was going to be, or you've lost a passion for it and you need to go elsewhere where you are appreciated, or where you have that sense of appreciation for yourself because you're in alignment with the career that you've always wanted it to be. Okay. Going off into Leo now. We have our Leo sun and rising. This is going to be impacting your 9th house. And for Leos, this could have indicated, especially during retrograde, that maybe you had an injury when you were traveling, or there may have been some kind of like religious trauma that has been necessary for you to overcome. And like I said, this could be all the way back to 2017 on and off, right? Where you have certain triggers that these things are activated in. This is like trying to find your groove again. It could also feel like you have like this sense of nostalgia for what used to be, or like a sense that things used to be better than they were, you know, like kind of like our parents, where it's like, oh, when I was a kid, soda pop was 5 cents. I could get it at the corner store, and, you know, we didn't have to lock our doors, and almost like that energy of like things used to be better before, right? But you can't be stuck in this limerence of the past and wallow in what was. You can't relive what the past was. You have to move forward and create a new path for yourself. So that's kind of what's coming through for Leo's sun and rising, is to find a new path, and also to let go your fear of failure, to let go of what would other people think of me, and to let go of your fear of humiliation. It's really tap into the courage of Leo, the strength of Leo, and to be able to move through difficult situations and know that you're a rock, you know, that it's not just a boulder, it's a rock. SpongeBob reference. But it's just that energy of being able to move through things that are difficult, and having faith in yourself too, as you move through and create these new paths for yourself. All right, so then we have Virgo sun and rising, and that is going to be in the 8th house. And immediately what I saw for Virgos when I was writing everything down is that it's like you might feel like you have been held in a pressure cooker, honestly. It's been dense and intense and maybe even a little bit scary. But all of this energy, you've survived through it. You know, you may have experienced a lot of darkness, especially in the last 5 or 6 months, a lot of low moments, a lot of like really like put you to the test moments, Virgo. And what you've learned while you're there is that the dark isn't quite so scary anymore. You know, you can stay in the darkness, and you can incubate and integrate and take those darker aspects and play with your shadows, and create something beautiful from it too. Yeah, that was the cat. Sorry, the books were knocked down. Secret scholars, yes. For Virgos, Chiron and Aries been all about digging deeper and deeper and uncovering hidden truths about yourself, or the hidden truths of others that have maybe long been manipulated before your eyes, and maybe have, you know, you've not necessarily been seeing some things clearly that other people have tried to kind of pull the wool over your eyes. But that is Virgo sun and rising in the 8th house. Congratulations on your transformation there. It is not comfortable, but it is transformation. No transformation is comfortable. Next, we have Libra sun and rising, which is natively in their ruling 7th house. So we're just doubling down on all that Libran energy. And of course, this is transformation of relationships, the rulership of Libra. So almost it's like as you transform relationships, it's also a transformation of self, because you so heavily identify your own identity with those of others. But during the retrograde, you could have experienced relationship struggles, old patterns coming around, old people trying to rehash the past, but more likely you could have encountered people that could have reminded you of previous events in order to heal them. A lot of the times, you know, as in tarot readings or astrology readings too, it's like, oh, this person's coming back, or da-da-da. It doesn't even have to literally be the sense. It can be the sense that somebody is embodying the same energy of someone that you knew from the past, and is giving you a chance to reintegrate this lesson in a different way, so that you hopefully no longer have to repeat it. But also things are cyclical, so sometimes they just come back around. Like, hey, are you sure you really outgrew this? You sure you really don't want this anymore? Here it is, dangle it in front of you. But now that Chiron is direct for Libras, for all of us, it is an opportunity of coming back into balance and approaching connections differently here as well. Kind of similar to the Gemini. You can kind of see the tie there between the air signs. Hi.
You gotta look real quick.
Oh, wow.
It's nice, huh?
Yeah, that's thicker than my other one.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Her Christmas present came. Yeah.
Well, I'll be wearing that later.
Okay, love you. I'm gonna go put your thing on it.
She's all excited.
I'm so excited. I love giving gifts. Okay.
As we're talking about the 7th house and my baby in her 7th house stellium. Anyways, so we're going to move on here to Scorpio sun and rising. This is going to be impacting your 6th house. Chiron will be in your 6th house, which is ruled by Virgo traditionally. And with this, you may have dealt with a health crisis or health issues while Chiron was retrograde, because Virgo does rule over your health, wellness, and routines, as well as work. The highlight of your energy is for you to change your routines and create health and energy for you. So maybe it wasn't for, I hope and I pray that there's no one out here that was like completely adversely affected by, you know, your personal health dwindling and that sort of thing over the last 5 months. But what I, in my Piscean moon delusion here, hope to instill more so is maybe you just had like a health scare that wasn't particularly serious, and it gave you the opportunity to kind of reflect and be like, oh my gosh, that was so scary, like I don't want to put myself in that situation again. And so, you know, you put yourself on the right track, the right regimen, the right routine to get your health right, to put back your energy into yourself, because a lot of times with Virgos in the 6th house in general, you can, you know, overgive to others and then there's nothing left for yourself. And same thing with like work, like you Virgos will overgive to work themselves to the bone, and then their health is completely deteriorated. It's very like American society and American work-life balance oriented for those of you that are in America. Things may have felt chaotic or hectic for you, and those things are just coming through, so you are able to see maybe where there is a need for structure. And sometimes I know it can be like very overwhelming to just be like, I need structure, I have no idea where, like I wish someone would just write me a list and take care of this. But you are your own superhero, Scorpio. You have the ability to change and transform better than any of us. So just take it step by step, even if it's small micro movements. You know, maybe it's get up 5 minutes earlier, or, you know, have broccoli instead of the fries for lunch, you know, as your side, whatever it is that's going to help you start to create these better habits for yourself. And I'm hoping that because of the retrograde and all of these opportunities that kind of came up for you to focus on your work life, your health, and your routine and structure, that you already kind of know where to start from here, and you know kind of what foot to put forward first. And where is your passion for mastery and craft too? If you haven't had like this sense of mastery or passion for your craft, like within your work, whatever your work may look like, you might need to kind of restructure that, either it be mentally, or maybe there's a time for you to change how you work or what you do for work also. You could have doubted your job or career path, or you're looking for a new path here. And just for those of you that are, that's kind of in alignment with the astrology, in case that resonates for Scorpio suns and rising. For my Sagittarius sun and rising, Chiron is going to be impacting your 5th house, which means that you, especially during the retrograde, could have had experienced fluctuating sex drive, struggling in romance with a partner, or within yourself while retrograde. It also could be your inner child really coming through, like your inner child needs more attention, or maybe your children in general just need more attention and are asking a lot more of you, which can also kind of like that Cancer energy where it was like maybe your children were triggering you. You could also feel that here, or maybe it's like this thing where it's like, I just don't have the energy to give to my kids or to myself. Like it could be like, I don't have the energy to give to my inner child, you know, however that resonates and manifests for you, because the 5th house is the ruler of pleasure, joy, children, and hobbies. There is, once, as we, on the 29th of December, after Chiron goes direct, there is this kindling going. Your fires are being reignited here. I'm glad that it's a confirmation for you. That's great. So as this fire starts to go, you have to recognize too that it does take some stoking to keep the flame burning. So it's really important for you to kind of follow those drives and ambitions as they start to come up for you. Get curious about yourself. These little triggers and things that may have come up, it's not for you to kind of throw a pity party and kick and scream and wail. It's so that you have an understanding of like what your body is trying to tell you, because your body does keep the score of any of our memories, experiences, traumas, and joys. So when you feel these little emotions bubbling up inside you, instead of pushing them down or letting them control you, just get curious without over-identifying with them. Yeah, maybe you've thrown a bit of a pity party for yourself while retrograde. This could have led to a lack of passion and amusement in your everyday life. Remind yourself how to make things feel special again. Romance yourself too, you know? It's really hard to, like, for couples and things that are in disillusionment and neither of them feel happy with themselves, like it's so hard for them to, you know, push forward and do these romantic gestures for their partner. It's because like you haven't done it for yourself too. It's like you have to have that sense of passion in yourself and that romance in yourself a lot of times before you can just do that for another person. So remember to fuel yourself, remember to stoke your own flame, whatever way that means, and so that you can show up better for the people in your life and for your partner and your children as well. Tap into childlike wonder and magic here, Sagittarius, and experience joy and pleasure not by using others, but by being your own personal well of happiness, which I really like this one. It's a very nice one for the Chiron placement here. Yeah, I just love inner child work in general. So, but that's probably me with my 5th house stellium. Anyways, let's jump into Capricorns. Capricorn sun and rising. You are going to be in your natural opposite house, which is the 4th house ruled by Cancer. You see the theme here, Capricorn and Cancer in opposite axis, Libra and Libra and Aries in opposite axis. All right. So for Capricorns, it could feel like you're trying to balance work and home life on an impossible scale during this retrograde. If that feels accurate, once Chiron goes direct on the 29th, you may have the clarity necessary to move without the constant concerns of people pleasing around you for your own sense of fulfillment. It's very similar to the Cancer side of things too, because that axis, you know, it kind of has been flipping flopping between both in the same way that Libra and Aries have as well. It could feel like you're always trying to make other people happy, even at your own expense, or that you've stonewalled others out just so that you can focus on making money, as that's kind of like the only sense of reliability to you. It's like Capricorns, you know, when Capricorns get a little jaded, and I'm a Capricorn as well, I know how this can be, where it's like, well, F that, at least my paycheck I can count on, you know? So it's just like money in the grind and focusing on that, because it's like, well, I have no one else to rely on but myself. So you feel like you're holding the world on your back. It can feel like that during the retrograde. So now you have the opportunity to kind of move out of this energy and recognize where you kind of cloistered yourself in and maybe have restricted yourself from others because there was no sense of trust there. There could be a worth wound around not being good enough that may have started from family or in early childhood. And this could have reared its head too during the retrograde. So and this goes for all signs too, if you're the type of person that needs to understand why something is coming up, then try and go back to the earliest memory, the earliest trigger point of where you felt that way, and reflect on that and try and integrate those earlier points into the current so that you don't react from that earlier wound, because it kind of is like compounded after that. It's like, I got hurt in the same way at this time, and then this time, and then this time, and then all of a sudden it's not that you're even experiencing the present moment, you're experiencing 35 other moments in your life all compounded into one in a moment of potential rage or wounding or hurting another person. And that's what can kind of happen sometimes during the Chiron retrograde, which we're still currently in up until the 29th. All right. And just for Capricorns, I just like to say, you are worthy, you are enough. Now it's time to own it. And with that, we will move on to Aquarius Sun and Rising, which Chiron shall be impacting your third house. And this is tied to any sense of being misunderstood or thrown aside by those you value. Those feelings could have transpired while Chiron was retrograde in Aries. It may have also felt too, like maybe there were like little quick blips or instances, and it's like you felt like you moved through it very quickly. And you're like, oh, I'm over it. It's not a big deal, right? But remember what I said earlier? Your body keeps the score. It's important that you allow your body to move through those things, because maybe mentally you're over it, right? Like maybe you've justified or logically escaped the emotional side of things, but just because you articulated it and you understand it mentally doesn't mean that your body doesn't still need its process to move through these energies. So it's important to move your body, move the energy if it is stuck and stagnant here. And I think that is a big thing here too, where it's like there's a need, a necessity moving forward. And I hope that y'all will see this as we have Chiron direct, where there's a need to merge the mind and the body together so that you can move in unity. And I feel like that's kind of like the highlight of the segregation, of the splintering for a lot of Aquarius, is those unification of the mind, body, and spirit here. Also, when direct, Chiron is showing you where you may need to slow down and articulate yourself, or how to ask, as I literally trip over my words, or how to ask appropriate questions so that you properly understand the people that you're in relationship to, so you don't jump to conclusions or make assumptions about another person and then hurt your own feelings. And also this kind of goes back to the body language thing. It's like 80% of communication is body language, not actually what is said. So maybe there's a necessity too, if you connect your mind and your body, the way that you articulate yourself, both verbally and with your body, are more likely to be in synchronicity there, so that you can properly be understood, and vice versa. Maybe you can then more properly read other people's body language and get the proper message that they're trying to relate to you, instead of kind of just being a little bit oblivious to the energies that may be around you. Any unresolved energies that involve a sibling of yours may also come up for integration. Maybe you had conflicts during the retrograde with a sibling, and there could be a potential for reconciliation once direct, or maybe it's that you cut off a sibling, for the foreseeable future, because the relationship that you had was no longer in alignment with you. All right, and now our final, but not save the best for last, I guess, I don't know, and then all the other signs come from me in the comments, just kidding. We have Pisces Sun and Rising, and this is going to be impacting your second house. And it's like the battle between spirituality and physicality, similarly to Taurus, but also in a little bit of a different way here, because typically Pisces, they escape differently than Taurus. Taurus escape physically, where Pisces typically escape astrally and up into the ethers. So you may have dealt with issues around money during this retrograde, or your ideas of what money is, like maybe what it means to you, the power that it holds, the power it doesn't hold, the impact that it's had on your life. Maybe you any sort of money beliefs, any sort of root chakra beliefs, financial beliefs coming to the forefront. Everything that you hold value or has a value scale to you, it has been highlighted during this retrograde and during Chiron and Aries in particular, because it's hitting your second house. If you made excuses about how money isn't necessary as ways to spiritually bypass the physical, you're being brought back down to ground and accept the practical side of this reality. And if you're entirely too practical and can't see the bigger picture of things, or the connection and oneness between all of us, you are being called to tap into higher planes and thoughts of consciousness there. So you have to identify kind of where you are on that scale, and if this aligns to you, to kind of course correct and find that balance between the two. Okay. And I see this a lot with not even just Pisces, but with a lot of spiritual coaches and teachers, where it's just like, I don't need the physical, or I've transcended this dimension and reality, and it's all just spiritual bypassing, you know, and that is a very Piscean wounding pattern, with it being in the 12th house. It's just like, I will meld into one, and then I don't care if I'm homeless on the street. He's like, no, most people are going to care if they're homeless on the street. Are they going to completely over-identify with it and be like, I'm a loser and this, and this? Or are they going to like spiritually bypass and just be like, I am a bunny rabbit in the 12th dimension? Like, it all just kind of depends on how you're working with those energies. And we all have very interesting ways of avoiding things that are uncomfortable. So anyways, there also may be a need, you may feel a need to prove yourself via physical possessions that you own if you're on the more physical side of this. And all of these have come up for you to change your relationship with the physical, your value system, and what is important to you. Similarly to Taurus, but in a little bit of a different way. It is very important as a Pisces sun and rising to have that spiritual connection, you know, but taking that spirituality and grounding it down, working on that grounding and having that balance so that you can manifest the things that you really want to manifest in this life. Because Pisces suns and risings, you have a very effervescent mind, very creative, very colorful, and there's ample opportunity to manifest and create the things that you want. But if you're not grounded enough and have your feet in the dirt enough to do it, you're never going to be able to create anything, you know. Or if you spend all your time in your mind and don't take any practical steps to achieving your goals, you're not going to achieve your goals. You know, it's not all manifestation. You know, there's a manifestation flow to your body, and there's an enlightenment flow to your body. So it just depends on what flow you're currently in. Anyways, that is what I have here for Chiron direct, and also how Chiron retrograde has been impacting you. We do still have it for quite a while, all the way through some parts of 2027. So this isn't going anywhere. This is just one of the retrogrades that we'll be dealing with, and we will be having another one the next year. But yes, these are some of the things you can look forward to and hopefully have an awareness of, so that you can integrate and do something differently if it's necessary for you. I appreciate you all. Have a good day. Goodbye.